Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear audience, it is the time for the session 1, that is Kashmir case in the perspective of international law and role of international community. We have the chair of the session, Mr. Shah Ghulam Qadir, Speaker, AJK Legislative Assembly. He is seated on the stage, and now I would invite rest of the panelists as Ms. Sidra Khan, a lecturer, IR Department, Namal, to seat on the stage. Mr. Qasim Haider, ex-director, Allama Iqbal Open University and member, Policy Research Forum. Muhammad Idris Abbasi, Secretary, Jammu and Kashmir Liberation Cell, he is also seated here. Mr. Awais Wasi, we have Dean Social Sciences, Rifai University, Islamabad, he is on his seat. Dr. Mansoor Kundi, former Vice Chancellor, Gomal University, and these panelists will deliver their deliberations, their thoughts, and the Honorable Chair will summarize at the end the whole discussion. Mr. Chair, I would like to continue. Thank you very much. Our first panelist on the sad issue is Ms. Sidra Khan. She is a lecturer of international relations at University of Namal, and she is a PhD scholar and working on various researches related to Kashmir dispute. Now I would like to welcome her to present her thesis over here. Ms. Sidra Khan. Thank you.
Although I might add that I have not done PhD yet, and that is not my thesis. Anyhow, coming back to the position, the topic which was given to me is Kashmir case in the perspective of international law and role of international community. So first of all, we need to set some basis. What exactly is human security? Human security constitutes security of individual, community, and societies. The basic right to live, survive, cherish, and prosper in life is for every human being and explicitly guaranteed by the international law. This is regardless of caste, creed, faith, and geographical identity of the person or community in question. So next comes, what is right of self-determination? So right of self-determination, we have heard the word again and again and again, but what exactly it means and what is the cause towards it, and why is related to Kashmir? Right of self-determination is individuals' and communities' right to freely decide their political, social, cultural, and economic status. According to international law, the right to self-determination is fundamental to human right. Having said so, if this is actually fundamental to every human being, despite the passage of almost 7 decades, people of former princely states of Jammu and Kashmir are still waiting for their right of self-determination promised by the United Nations. Deployment of over 700,000 troops, India is clearly violating the international law and the UN resolutions over the last 25 years in the Indian held Kashmir and have committed massive human rights, and no one can disagree on that particular point. Deaths through torture of Kashmiri people have been common phenomenon in the Indian held Kashmir by security forces, and there have been reports of torture, rape, innocent killing, disappearances since 1990. And this wave was picked up magnitude during the matter of Burhan Wani, and which is still being seen right now. So what is the role of United Nations if we're particularly talking about it? Kashmir, alongside with Israel-Palestine issue, was the first principal issues of United Nations to stand up in the post-World War II. 60 years have been gone, and they have been trying to wrap up in their positions, and there's still no answer towards it. I hope you can clearly see, but if you cannot, I will read it up to you. The UN involvement in the Kashmir conflict largely lasted for 17 years. I'm not saying just 17 years, and why I'm saying it, I will explain. After the Indo-Pak War of 1965, the UN engagement with Kashmir continued at a very nominal role till the Third Pakistan War of 1971 and completely ended with signing of Simla Agreement 1972, an Indo-Pak peace agreement which laid emphasis on adopting a bilateral framework to solve Kashmir embargo and kept the UN out of the picture. That being said, we do not accept that, because even the Simla Agreement itself grants or was under the charter or ambit of United Nations Charter. The ultimate solution of Kashmir would be under the United Nations Charter, and that the Indian mantra of bilateralism, which I've been hearing again and again, is actually it's misleading assertions for our youth, for our people, which have caught up in there, and we still need to get out of that bilateral thing. We need to get out of that discourse that created by the Indians. We need to create our own narrative one way or the other. Kashmiris wish to stress that their land is not a real state, cannot be parceled out between two non-resident disputants. Kindly please clarify, non-resident disputants, but at the home of nation with a history far more compact and coherent than India's. No settlement of their status will hold unless it is explicitly based upon the principles of self-determination, erase the so-called line of control, which is in reality, according to them and in agreed, is a line of conflict. Moving forward, representatives of Kashmiri separatist leadership presented a memorandum to United Nations to Ban Ki-moon, and would say that we, the people of Jammu Kashmir, have firm faith in the institution of United Nations, which has been working for the mitigation of the suffering of the oppressed around the world, and will actively engage and intervene in Jammu Kashmir. Now, there were two major points for that. First, call upon India to end its forcible occupation of Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir, and also divest from the use of brute force against the people of Jammu Kashmir. Second, by itself take all effective measures in giving the people of the state the chance to exercise the right of self-determination for deciding the future that has been conceded by them, by Pakistan, India, and approved by United Nations Organization. All three parties are being there. United Nations resolution regarding Kashmir dispute are not self-enforceable. That is the unfortunately of this whole system. In other words, the resolutions are recommendatory in nature and can be only enforced if the parties of the dispute, that is India, Pakistan, consent to their application. India's refusal to implement the UN resolutions on Kashmir was relegated to the margins of the conflict, so that everything what we do comes back again to the start. The words United Nations, self-determination and plebiscite have become integral to the Kashmiri political action. So the UN has failed in bringing a solution to the Kashmir conundrum. Its past involvement in Kashmir conflict has undoubtedly proved legitimacy and strength. Now, what exactly is the role of US in solving Kashmir issue? Might be a little bit, a lot. United States champion the stand. The future of the status of Kashmir must be determined by the will of the Kashmiri people and the territory, and their wishes must be ascertained through impartial plebiscite under the supervision and control of United Nations. Now, the US was the principal sponsor of Resolution 47 adopted by the Security Council on 21st April 1948, which was based on unchallenged principle and held up equally by both India, Pakistan, and when Kashmir dispute was brought against the Security Council. President George W. Bush on 22nd February, he said that Kashmir dispute acceptable not only to India and Pakistan, but also the citizens of Kashmir. Citizens of Kashmir are the most important and the prominent feature that they have to be there when the solution has to be put up forward. Now, why should US intervene in Kashmir? The United States, following the disintegration of Soviet Union, was the only major power left. As such, it was both a stake and the responsibility for the maintenance of peace and stability throughout the world. The world community now acknowledges that, and that without a resolution Kashmir dispute, there would be no lasting or durable peace in the part of the world. Now, the red light says that it is short-sightedness and dangerous to leave the solution in the hands of India as a regional power, because if US leaves the solution in the hands of India, this solution would never be in front of us. India's present militaristic policy against the beleaguered people of the valley cannot lead to resolution of the conflict. Kashmir is an international issue and is recognized by the United Nations. The United States need to recognize that and act accordingly, not only an initiative, but according to the lines of United Nations itself. A subcontinent at peace is in the interest of the United States because the vast population can form a dynamic market and US goods and services. This is why US needs to actually solve Kashmir. However, lasting question can be achieved if the basic Kashmir question is solved equitably and in accordance with the wishes of the Kashmiri people. This could only be done by under the UN auspices on the basis of 1948-1949 security resolutions, call for the exercise of self-determination for the people of Kashmir. I guess we can skip that. Yes, there are two more things important in this. Primarily because India and Pakistan both are nuclear weapon states, there becomes a nuclear flashpoint. South Asia becomes a nuclear flashpoint, and so does Kashmir begins it. But the Bush administration pursued the traditional American position. That is, India and Pakistan need to resolve this bilateral negotiation due to Simla Accord, which I just now explained to you that Simla Accord is not bilateral in its essence. It's under the UN Charter. US foreign policy usually follows the Kissinger doctrine, that is not solving, in fact settling, not solving. So you keep the thing going on and it doesn't actually solve for them. The third world, no, it's not solving for the third world dispute, and to keep the people who seek freedom and democracy poor and suppressed. That is their policy, the Kissinger policy, which have been followed by all the administrations till now. So we should come to the people who are the role of EU. The European Union has the ability, moral power, to persuade both Pakistan and India to resolve the issue in a peaceful manner, because Britain did mediate it between India and Pakistan and successfully resolved Ran of Kutch dispute. So if it can do that, it can do this also. In the last 62 years, European nations have played part an effort to resolve the international issues, especially those who have legacy of colonialism. The Indian position on that EU and the G8 should exert greater pressure to Pakistan. Kindly keep the importance or understand the words they are saying. That Indian position is that EU and G8 should exert greater pressure on Pakistan to quit insurgent on the heights, forays into the Europe by senior functionalists, and the Indian government succeeded in conveying the Indian stand on Kargil to European policymakers. Thus, according to Indian author, France, who was about to give 60 Mirage fighter bombs to Pakistan, that was delayed or denied. So we have other major powers in the world. We need to look at that. India and Russia have time again helped up each other and held their position at the United Security Council. USSR vetoed UN security resolutions on Kashmir. Indeed, even today, Russia would assume take up its role and solve the burning issue in South Asia. China, who has been the bleeding edges and understand Kashmir issue, now appears to be taking an impartial position. Role of OIC. Although we have in this preceding session, we have seen what exactly is the role of OIC. We have been talked about with Masood Khan and our PM also, but still we need to see exactly. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation has called upon to India implement the United Security Council, but India rejected allegations leveled against it, recalled its earlier position that OIC had no local standing in the matter because it's a bilateral position and no other person and no other party, no other organization can actually handle it or try to solve it. So what comes the analysis of it? Since the major powers share the economic interests with India, and the seemingly civilized world would not like to annoy India in any manner. However, India should be stressed for the implementation of UN resolutions by the world powers. There is one dimension more to its nuclear dimension. Now, Bill Clinton said that the most dangerous place on the earth is Kashmir. The world needs to resolve the issue owing to the nuclear flashpoint, humanitarian issue. Kashmir dispute is a humanitarian issue, as there has been killing of over hundreds and thousands of people and tens and thousands of gang rape in Kashmir at the hands of Indian forces. The champion of human rights are silent over the massive human rights violation in Indian Kashmir, and as Masood Khan sir already said, that they have accepted their hypocrisy when in manner. Poverty elevation. Since both in India and Pakistan are spending huge on defense budgets, the same can be utilized on building the region economically and to reduce poverty. Provided Kashmir dispute is solved by the wishes of the Kashmiri people, only then. Between India's insistence that settlement must be done within the four corners of the Indian Constitution, which is not acceptable neither to Pakistan nor the Kashmir itself, and Pakistan's demand that it must be based on international agreement embodied in the United Security Council, there cannot be a meeting point for the two governments. They can find themselves at each other's acceptance. There needs to be a third way which neither admits nor challenges, claims any proposition, nor questions the sovereignty over Kashmir, nor the desirability or otherwise of the partition or the reunification of the state. Both these questions need to be set aside if this dispute is to be a settlement on the road. Lastly, in the summary, I would just say the international community and the global organizations need to convince India to stop human rights violations in the Indian-held Kashmir, give Kashmiri their right of self-determination. India must realize that it cannot keep Kashmir as a hostage anymore. The question arises of the consciousness of the international community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sidra.